Every teacher knows the feeling of a classroom spiraling out of control because of one student. We label them as difficult, defiant, or simply impossible to reach. But what if our initial labels are actually preventing us from seeing the real crisis happening right beneath the surface? The tension in the room becomes a physical weight that exhausts your energy before the first lesson even ends. It is easy to view these interactions as a personal battle of wills. However, this defensive posture often blinds us to the critical data these students are providing. Is it possible that what we perceive as a disciplined rebellion is actually a sophisticated survival mechanism? When a student feels unsafe or overwhelmed, their behavior shifts into a primal state. We must stop reacting to the noise and start decoding the silent signals of a struggling learner. When the wall goes up between a teacher and a student, the educational process stops completely. Both sides feel misunderstood, frustrated, and increasingly isolated. The stakes are incredibly high because a misread signal often leads to an escalation that pushes the student further away from success. The impact of our response dictates the entire trajectory of that student's academic year. If we continue to treat every outburst as a character flaw, we reinforce a cycle of failure. Choosing a different path requires a radical shift in how we diagnose the classroom environment. This matters because your classroom culture depends on your ability to remain the calm anchor in a storm of adolescent emotion. When you learn to diagnose effectively, you reclaim your authority without needing to exert force. It is the difference between surviving and truly teaching. Think of the student who is currently drowning in a sea of hidden trauma or undiagnosed learning gaps. To the outside observer, they just look
like they are splashing and causing trouble. To the trained eye, those splashes are desperate attempts to keep their head above water. Our mission today is to provide you with a practical guide for handling these challenging moments. We will move from frustration to clinical observation, allowing you to dismantle conflict before it begins. Let us begin by breaking down the core principles of student behavioral diagnosis. The first major mistake is labeling a student's personality instead of their specific behavior. When we call a child difficult, we stop looking for solutions and start looking for excuses. This mindset creates a fixed narrative that makes it almost impossible for the student to change. Instead, we must shift toward objective observation of the actions themselves. Focus on the frequency, intensity, and duration of the specific behavior you are seeing. By isolating the action from the individual, you can address the root cause without attacking the student's sense of identity. Let us look at the wrong way to handle a student who refuses to work. The teacher stands over them, using physical height to intimidate, which only triggers the student's fight or flight response. This creates an immediate power struggle where no one actually wins the argument. The right way involves lowering your physical presence and removing the immediate pressure. By meeting them at eye level and speaking softly, you de-escalate the nervous system. This approach creates the necessary psychological safety for the student to actually process the instructions you are giving. Many challenging behaviors are actually symptoms of cognitive overload or academic fear. If a student lacks the foundational skills to complete a task, they would often rather look like a rebel than look like a failure. Distraction is a very common mask for profound academic insecurity. To solve this, we must use the principle
of microtasking. Instead of giving a complex project, provide one single achievable step. Success breeds confidence, and confidence reduces the need for disruptive behavior. When the work feels possible, the resistance usually begins to fade away quite rapidly. Sensory triggers are often misread as intentional defiance in the modern classroom. A student might be reacting to the hum of the lights, the smell of a marker, or the visual clutter on the walls. If they cannot articulate this discomfort, they will act it out. The fix is to create a sensory-neutral zone within your classroom where students can reset. By identifying environmental triggers, you can adjust the lighting or seating to accommodate different needs. This simple diagnostic step can prevent dozens of behavioral blow-ups before they ever have a chance. The mistake of escalating your own voice to match the student's volume is a recipe for disaster. When you scream, you lose the moral high ground and confirm the student's belief that the classroom is a hostile place. Loudness is a sign of lost control. The professional standard is radical calm. When a student goes loud, you go quiet. Your steady presence forces the student to recalibrate their own energy to match yours. This is not weakness. It is a sophisticated display of emotional intelligence and professional mastery over the environment. Attention, tangible reward, or sensory regulation. To diagnose the signal, you must ask what the student is getting out of the behavior. Identifying the function is the key to the solution. If the behavior is for attention, give them a positive role in the class. If it is for escape, provide structured breaks. By meeting the underlying need in a healthy way, you make the negative behavior redundant. The student no longer needs to act out. We often fail because
we try to reason with a student who is in a downstairs brain state. When a child is in a high stress state, the prefrontal cortex, the part that understands logic, is literally offline. You cannot teach a lesson to a brain that is panicking. Wait for the cool down period before attempting to discuss the behavior. Connection must always come before correction. By establishing a bridge of trust when things are calm, you gain the leverage needed to address the difficult moments when they inevitably arise later in the week. Avoid the last word trap at all costs. Teachers often feel they must win every verbal exchange to maintain authority. In reality, engaging in a back-and-forth argument in front of the class only undermines your status and wastes precious instructional time for everyone else. Instead, deliver your instruction or consequence and immediately pivot back to the lesson. This is the broken record technique combined with a tactical ignore. It shows that the behavior will not derail the class, and it gives the student a graceful way to comply. Do not let yesterday's conflict poison today's classroom. Students who are labeled difficult often feel that there is no point in trying because the teacher has already decided they are bad. Carrying a grudge is a silent way of ensuring the behavior continues forever. Practice the clean slate policy every single morning. Greet the most challenging student with a genuine smile and a neutral tone. This disrupts their expectation of conflict
and provides a safe space for them to try a new, more positive version of themselves in class. Remember that anger is a secondary emotion. It is almost always covering up something more vulnerable, like fear, embarrassment, or sadness. When you see a student exploding with rage, look for the primary emotion hiding behind the mask. This perspective will change your entire response. Empowerment is the antidote to defiance. Instead of giving orders, give choices. Would you like to do the odd numbers or the even numbers? Both choices lead to work, but giving the student a sense of agency reduces the need for them to fight you. Catch them being good. This sounds cliché, but for a student who only hears negative feedback, a single moment of genuine, specific praise can be revolutionary. It shifts the economy of your relationship from one of debt and punishment to one of investment and growth. Fairness does not mean treating everyone the same. It means giving everyone what they need to succeed. Some students need more structure, while others need more space. Defending this principle to your class builds a culture of equity and mutual respect for individual differences. We have shifted our perspective from seeing a problem child to seeing a student with unmet needs.
This reframe is the most powerful tool in your pedagogical arsenal. It turns you from a classroom police officer into a highly skilled educational diagnostician and mentor. Synthesis occurs when you realize that behavior is a language. When a student acts out, they are telling you something they don't have the words for yet. Your job is to translate that behavior into a strategy that helps them reintegrate into the learning community. The most important part of the diagnosis is checking your own emotional temperature. You cannot help a dysregulated student if you are dysregulated yourself. Professionalism is the ability to maintain your internal peace regardless of the chaos happening in the seats in front of you.
By misreading the signals, we often trap students in the very behaviors we want them to stop. By correctly diagnosing the signals, we provide them with the exit ramp they didn't know they had. This is the essence of transformative teaching and classroom management. You now have a framework for handling the most challenging learners. It begins with observation, continues with empathy, and concludes with strategic, calm action. No student is truly unreachable if you are willing to look past the surface noise and find the real signal. The results of this shift are a more peaceful classroom, a more effective teaching day, and a deeper connection with your students. You are no longer managing behavior. You are managing growth.
That is the highest calling of our profession and our greatest reward. Now, it is your turn to apply these principles in your own classroom. Start tomorrow by picking one student and observing their triggers without judgment. Notice the patterns, identify the function of their behavior, and prepare to respond with radical calm and clear boundaries. If this guide helped you see your students in a new light, please share it with a colleague who might be struggling today. Teaching is a team sport, and we all benefit when we share the strategies that actually work in the real-world classroom environment. For more practical guides on mastering the art of teaching and classroom management, make sure to follow this channel. We are dedicated to providing you with the tools you need to stay inspired and effective every single day. Your professional journey matters to us greatly. Remember, there are no difficult students, only students who haven't been understood yet. Keep diagnosing, keep connecting, and keep teaching. Leave a comment below with your biggest classroom challenge, and let us solve it together. Thank you for the incredible work you do daily.